There's press conferences happening now. Guys are having to speak to the media for the first time. This Hard Knocks Giants thing is continuing to roll out what happened maybe during the draft. I don't know if you saw this last night. The New England Patriots were never going to trade out of 3. Never. They were going to take a quarterback. They might have been, kind of letting people think that they were going to potentially do it, but when push came to shove, unless they got a haul like RG3 was for Washington with St. Louis, they were never going to give it up, and no team was going to do that. Did you learn anything from that? And what are your thoughts on how the Giants are kind of managing what seemingly was the draft and then now the regular season training camp as we start?
Well, I think we could put to bed this whole stupid notion that came out after the draft. They were trying to trade up to get Joe Alt. I mean, that name never even came up. Yeah. I mean, that was another fabrication coming out of the Meadowlands that they were moving up to get the tackle. For all the conversation about protecting the quarterback, we never heard anything about the offensive lineman. This was going to be some way to draft a skill player to help Daniel Jones along, and I think ultimately that's been the key. I think what we learned from Saquon Barkley simply was that Joe Shane, the general manager, really never wanted to sign him in spite of his owner, John Mara, wanting to keep him. When the cap goes up as much as it went up and all of a sudden you say, well, we don't have enough room to sign you after you had him on the team last year, I think that's a fairly telling sign. And look, let's face it, Barkley gained over 400 yards after contact last year. He gained 400 yards before contact last year. And if you're playing behind the Giant offensive line, which has been very poor over the last few years, Daniel Jones was under pressure 30% of the snaps last year. If you're in that situation, you're going to have to break some tackles. And Singletary didn't break as many as clearly Saquon did. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, and obviously they're the same age, different prices, and that's kind of been a telling tale throughout the entire Hard Knocks, New York Giants, Singletary, and Saquon Barkley. And you talk about the offensive line. Daniel Jones' first clip coming out of training camp here is a little bit of an overthrow and a swing route, and obviously we pull that because, yeah, exactly.
Tough throw.
Yeah, it's a tough throw. That is not an easy throw. Everybody thinks it's easy, obviously, because most NFL quarterbacks can complete it. But whenever you're trying to get the timing out, that whole thing, a lot of people said immediately Saquon would have grabbed that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Saquon would have made a play. There was other clips of Daniel Jones completing a pass to Darius Slayton on the sideline, absolute dime. But then there was a conversation immediately about him potentially getting sacked by Thibodeau, though. So there is, first day of training camp, there's going to be chaos. It is going to be shit. For most teams, it's not going to look anything like what it's going to look like whenever football happens. But these clips, we got to judge immediately. These press conferences, we got to judge immediately. What did you learn from Shanahan and John Lynch talking about the Ayuk situation for the first time as training camp unfolds? And how do we see that working out? It seemingly is continuing to be just Niners are like, yeah, he's playing. And that's just how this goes. He's just playing football for us, and he can be as mad and put as many vlogs out as he wants. Is that the sense you're getting from them in this situation?
Yeah, they have complete alignment with that. I mean, look, let's be clear here. The CBA has given the 49ers all the arsenal they need in terms of the leverage. He's got a contract, and he's come in. He just needs one more good year. Look, Justin Jefferson did it last year, and it proved to be beneficial for him. So it's right there in front of him. Look, I think Brandon Ayuk did a tremendous job last year, 17 yards per catch. He can win on the outside. He's dynamic at what he does. And they need him. They know that if they were to trade him, they're not going to get compensation back that's going to be able to impact their team moving forward. So I think Lynch and both Shanahan are on the same page when it comes to that regard. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with CeeDee Lamb. He decided not to come to camp. The Cowboys are an interesting team because, let's be clear, they have done very little this offseason. They're going to they may start 2 rookies in their offensive line. They didn't replace Tony Pollard, who wasn't an elite back that he was 2 years ago before his injury. Where are they going to be offensively? I mean, this was one of the most high-scoring teams in the league last year, had over 500 points. They had a 172-point differential in the first half, which is the key stat in all of football, right? First half point differential. That determines if you can play from in front. Cowboys dominated in that area. But can they do it again this year with an offensive line that's a little leaky? And I think we saw it when they went on the road last year.
Well, and they got to pay Micah. They got to pay Dak. You got a CD issue. McCarthy's on his last year of his contract as the head coach. It's like, what is Dallas? I guess we're going to find out. CD holding out old school was wild to see.